one of the things that always impressed me was John Sarkowski at the Museum of Modern Art said, some of the best photographs are taken by amateurs. And that's what this show is all about. Only two people here are pros. This is Rocky. He's a professional photographer, though this isn't what he does to earn a living. He does weddings and parties and things like that. This is what he does for his soul. The other stuff he does for his pocketbook. Jennifer, who is right behind me, Jen Clayson. And at the end of this show, you come up and take a look at these prints. You'll also see them on the screen. Jen works in Los Angeles, and she does production stills for movies. But that's not where her real passion lies. Her passion lies in photographing what she's shown up here. She loves traveling, and she's one hell of a photographer. Am I allowed to say hell? Is there a 7-second delay on this? Thank you, Alan. Nick Bandrith. Nick did the small photographs in the back, and you'll see them when you go back later. I met Nick when he was in high school. He was in Emerson, New Jersey, and he came into my gallery, and he loves photography, and he showed me his work. He does a lot of stuff on the streets, and he's a tough kid. He's an all-state wrestler, so going up to guys in tough situations, he's not afraid of them. So he walks up and asks them to take pictures, and they allow it for some reason. And he is now working in Rochester, New York. You know, let's face it, that's where photography was born, with all due respects to Daguerre. And Nick is doing alternative processing. He makes his own emulsions, he coats his own papers, and he's using large format cameras now as opposed to the 35 that he used to. All right, so enough talking. I want you to see pictures. That'll explain everything, hopefully. And this is Jen's work. You know, it's the one little detail that makes the photograph in a sense, and it's the hat. Mm-hmm. The hat explains how fast he's going, you know, and it adds another dimension to the photograph. It's a marvelous photograph. The other thing I like about Jen's work is she's not afraid to bend her knees and get low and get unusual perspectives. So those of you that haven't had 7 hip operations like I have, bend your knees. Especially when the biggest mistake amateurs make when they're photographing children, they go, oh, look at how cute. And they point the camera down on top of the kid, and that's not it. Same thing with animals, dogs, cats. Bend your knees. If you're looking at your subject's eyes, you're in the right place. And this is a tough place to have your knees bent because of those things, you know. So, and that's what I like about her. If you don't take a chance, and you'll see in Mark's pictures, Mark takes a chance quite often. And I photographed rodeos before, but not like this. They wouldn't let me get close, and I wanted to be there. But Jen somehow knows these cowboys, and she can get in close, and that's the place to be. If I repeat the words of Robert Capa, who said, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're probably not close enough. And that's what she's doing. She's got a wide-angle lens, and she's no more than 3.5, 4 feet from this kid. What that does is it brings the viewer into the subject. Not into the subject, into the scene, I'm sorry. And here she is shooting against the light. You know, a lot of amateurs will back off or a situation like that. But she confronts it head on, and she takes what she can get. What was the name of the book she was working on? Growing Up Cowboy is a book she's working on. And this looks like a grown-up cowboy. Again, she's shooting against the light, and it still works nicely. That's charming, isn't it? And see where the light is. The light's not falling on her, light's behind her. There's a nice soft effect with that. Obviously, she's on a horse here, so if you can't ride a horse, don't do rodeos. And see what happens when you get close. She brings you along with her, right alongside of her. And that's where you are now. There's something I like about this. It's such poetry. This poor animal is on the ground, you know, and he's being stretched out by these ropes. Yet here's the horse bowing, you know, and is supplicating, and the cowboy is walking away at the same supplication. It's a wonderful photograph. This one knocks me out. This really kills me. I've taken pictures of kids, thousands, literally thousands of kids. But to get this kind of relationship between a father and the son is so sweet. And it's all there in one picture. It needs no descriptions or anything else. That's one of your favorites, isn't it? Yeah. Now, if it looks easy, it's not. I've seen these cowboys getting dragged off all the time, you know, after riding bulls. And that's a painful way to make a living. Again, she has that low angle, and what I like about this is she's included this thing at the top of the spur, you know. It almost looks like an accident, but I'm sure with her eyes she's very clever, and she included that. And then you have the gesture behind her of the guy pointing out and the guy walking off. There are a lot of things going in there to look at. Now, it's like they say in Monty Python, now for something completely different. She's gone from Colorado, where she's born and raised. Where did she say these were from? Burma? Burma. Okay, I'm sure these are same thing. That's a classical photograph, though, isn't it? Oh, again, she's doing what I've been lecturing for the last 5 minutes here. Bend your knees. You have to be looking at your subject's eyes. Normally she'd be standing up and be going like that. This is in Cuba. Burma. This is Jen's. That's Jen's as well. That's another thing. Not everybody can do this. But the minute I have the camera in my hand, I'm entitled to do anything, anywhere, at any time. And I don't need permission. That camera gives me permission. It's unbelievable the power that these simple things hold. You just walk around and you're starting taking pictures and everybody is moving away, letting you do whatever you want. I'm just saying to you, you got a camera in your hand. The American Indian believes that wherever they are, is the center of the universe. Unless you happen to live in Jersey. You know. That's a line from Steve Landisberg. But anyway, I believe that. Wherever you are is the center of the universe, as long as you have that camera in your hand. Okay, that's what you're destined to do, so do it, damn it. And don't let anybody tell you can't do it unless it's a cop and he's saying, this is a crime scene, get out of here. But I like the fact that Jen goes up there with a wide-angle lens and she's right under the net and she's probably getting wet and stinky of fish, but who cares? She's getting the picture. Okay, now where are we going? Oh, I love these. I love these. These are Rockies. He's right here, and he'd rather have me speak for him or you speak for him, and you say something. His English is good, but maybe perhaps not great. You want to explain any of these things?
Can you hear me? Okay, great. I won't give too much of an explanation of the work itself. Mel told me, you know, if the photos are good enough, they'll explain themselves. So the artist's name is Jin Han Kim, and he's been taking photos since 1975. So he was in this series it's called Beyond the Tree, and it was inspired by nature. He's been taking some time just by himself, and again, like Mel said, he's a wedding photographer, and he doesn't really get that much time. So basically, whatever was around him, he was just inspired by that. So, yeah, I mean, one thing that I can tell you is that we're currently working on a project together, and a few of these are actually being made into scarves. So I know what is it? I know an Italian artisan silk producer and a printer. So we took some of these photographs, and then we just printed it on there. If you go back just a few, just one more. So So this one is actually from his series when he was in Jeju Island in Korea, and this was back in the 70s. And right now, Jeju is being very developed. So these are actually going to be exhibited in one of the museums there, or one of the resorts there, just to be able to show, you know, what Jeju was like. It's a great vacation spot. If you like pork belly, they're known for pork belly. But yeah, if we go forward. Yep. So this series is called Coincidence, and I don't know how he did it. He won't tell me because apparently the magician never reveals his secrets. But so he goes around New York and he takes these photographs of the iconic buildings. And this is something recently he started, I think within the last several years.
This is remarkable.
So I'm sure you can tell what this is. You know where this is? Central Park. This one is Times Square. Mel, I think that's your rival, or it was your rival at one point.
Exactly.
Yeah, this one is from the series. Which one is this?
You make
Phenomenon. This is Phenomenon.
Scarves out of these?
Yes.
Well?
There's a few of them. I don't have them with me today, but
I wish you did. They were very nice.
Yeah.
You see how they translate into a commercial product. They're really very good looking.
So the scarves themselves, we are currently there's a contract with some museum we may have. So, but if not, we'll definitely post it online, and I'll send Mel the link, and you guys can all take a look if you like. This one is from the series Spirit. So Mr. Kim, he goes on hikes every now and then, and he's more of like a trail runner. And so he captures these photos every now and then, and he tells me that there's only a specific time of year, only for a couple days, where you can go and take these photos. All right. This series is actually this is early on. This was Memphis, and then this is Harlem. So I think this was back in the 70s, 80s? 1984.
Shooting natural light?
So yes, this is all natural light.
And I'm not going to I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying, but when you're photographing dark subjects or black people like this, indoors, natural light. That's a challenge. I mean, technically a challenge. And then when you have a sweetheart like that, that makes the photo, doesn't she? I love this.
This is another one from the Jeju series. It's another one from the same series.
You can see the influences of different photographers in there, like Bill Brandt, you know, was high contrast, high key, dropping out a lot of the middle tones. William Kline did that as well. Mario Giacomelli did that kind of thing with a landscape, even more contrasty. It's nice that you can speak the language, you know. I'm staying out of this. Luigi, come on up here, grab the mic, and tell people about your work. This is Lou Rothman. He's a doctor in New York City.
I thought I was just going to show the pictures are going to
You
speak
are,
for
and
themselves. Well, I've been taking pictures since I was a kid, and that's longer than probably most everybody here has been alive. Started shooting digital when it became available. Subject matter for me is very eclectic, do a little bit of everything. Lately, done a lot of architectural stuff in New York, moved into New York a few years ago, lived in New Jersey for the last 40 years, but have worked in New York pretty much all my life. Stuff that you've seen so far have been candid stuff or street stuff that I've shot here in the city.
Great photograph.
This is some of the architecture that I like to do. This is 6th Avenue. Call it Moonrise over 6th. Building in the Diamond District, which again sort of gives the sense of the facets. Obviously near Grand Central. This was actually 2 images that have been stacked, focused. These were taken with at a very wide aperture, 0.095. First of the sign and then the Chrysler building, and then I blended the 2 together. This is a building in Japan, and I was just struck by the angles. Tokyo.
There's a lot of geometry in all these pictures.
This is, you'll recognize obviously, is the new Freedom Tower taken from on an MS walk last year from the West Side Highway. This is in Dallas. See that I've done this is a Washington Gallery in Washington, D.C. This is a building down on, 18th Street, the IAS building, I think.
It's just such an unusual perspective.
And it's sort of like a kaleidoscope.
Mm.
This is a shot that was taken somewhere on the west side, I don't remember, about 2 years ago. And this is the Fulton Street subway station. So I'm fascinated by geometry, a lot of architectural stuff. This is down near Park where the sit-in, the Wall Street sit-in was. This is just a straight shot off the go back to that one for a minute.
Sorry.
Off the RCA building, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but on 59th Street, there's an art installation right near the Plaza Hotel that rotates frequently. They put a clock up there, and this clock was interesting in that the hands didn't move, the clock face moved.
Oh, wow.
And this is just a shot. It's actually upside down. This, of course, is the Manhattan.
Yeah, I was wondering why the buildings were in the wrong position there. That's wonderful.
This is a,
Tell them how you got this, though.
Well, you know, this isn't the most interesting one. It's very well known that if you're in Dumbo, there's a spot where you can project the Empire State Building through the undersurface of the Manhattan Bridge. I don't know if I had included. There's another place where you can get
It's in there. I'm pretty sure it's in here.
Where you can shoot the Empire State Building through an arch, but you have to be standing on exactly one spot on the Brooklyn Bridge to do it. This is underneath the GW Bridge.
How many people have seen that lighthouse there? You know.
And again, this is from Brooklyn of the Freedom Tower, and the streaks in the sky were eerily reminiscent of what happened in 9/11. And this is the one that was shot through the...
What lens did you use on that?
I used a 100 to 400 millimeter Canon lens.
Wow.
And I was I wanted to shoot this at night. The problem is when you're standing on the Brooklyn Bridge, which is the only place you can do that, there's just simply too much vibration.
Moving, yeah.
So I was there for a few hours and
That's
at least got
terrific
one sharp
shot,
image.
Very nice.
And this is, again, in Dumbo, one of my favorites of the Manhattan Bridge. This is the Williamsburg Bridge with graffiti galore. And this is at the foot of the Manhattan Bridge. This is just one of the few trolley tracks that remain in the city. This is a shot in the Met, just of again, I'm interested in shapes, and this was done in Zimbabwe in Africa. This is one of the photos on the wall. I like to get as much clutter out unless the clutter really works, so I try to simplify things as much as I possibly can.
And be sure and look at the print. The print's wonderful.
And another one from, this is a Cape buffalo.
Everybody seen the bird?
You don't want to get too close to these animals when they're angry. These are among the
400 will do nicely.
The roughest animals in the world, but they are photogenic. Again, I was on a trip to Zimbabwe about a year and a half ago. And
you've got black and white and color in there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's on the wall too. Normally, I shoot a lot of black and white, but this was one instance where I thought I'd pull back a little color in Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I printed this both totally in black and white, and I like them both, but I think the one in color adds just a little.
It does, indeed.
A little something extra. This is a picture that I put in a library show, and the picture before it was X-rated, so I had to eliminate it from the show in the public library.
I wonder what those lions were doing.
It's time for a cigarette and a drink. This was done down in Antarctica about almost exactly a year ago. Stitched image.
Explain that.
3 images that were seamed together to create the panoramic view.
You start off on one end, do the middle.
This was done from a boat, from a ship that we were on, going slowly enough.
It's even more of a challenge, the fact that you're moving.
Anybody can get down there before it all melts. I definitely recommend it. It's like literally no other place in the world. It's absolutely a magical place. This is Cuba. You've seen some color in Cuba, and most people say, well, gee, why didn't you shoot color? Well, I felt for what I was looking at in Cuba, I found that monochrome worked better for me. So I did a whole series of monochrome images in Cuba that I was reasonably pleased.
And you brought that 56 Chevy home with you, right?
That's right. Yeah, well, that's probably the first car that I drove.
This is one of my favorite pictures. I love this.
Again, this is in Cuba on the wall.
Now, what lens are you using here?
The Cuba stuff was all shot with a Sony 24 to 70.
Nice.
It's nice small lens. When I travel, the older I get, the lighter I want the lighter I want the equipment to be, and so, but yet I still like the quality.
How long does it take you, say for 1 or 2 prints? I mean, this is not just a matter of looking at it and say, oh, that's great, I'll make it a little lighter, a little darker. You're doing a lot more work in there. So on one print, 15, 20 minutes, half hour, hour?
I would say half hour,
Half hour, yeah.
on average.
It's about what I do
But
as
sometimes
well.
I go back, sometimes I'll work on it, and then 2-3 days later, a week later, a month later, I'll look at it and say, I really don't like it this way, and I'll tweak it a little bit more.
But that's reminiscent of what the Impressionists did in the Louvre. They've got a painting hanging, and I don't know which painter did it, but one of the painters actually came in and wanted to change something in his paintings, and he was changing it, and the guards see him, and they, what the hell are you doing? And that's my painting, and I'm doing this and that and this. And I don't know how many times that, you may have done this. I do it, Lou does it. You look at a photograph and you go, oh, that's great, and you come back to it a week later and you say, well, I didn't notice that. Why don't I darken this side, or why don't I lighten this side, or why don't I crop this side? So you're not always finished. You can go back a year from now and just say, let me do that over again. And the other thing is now, with today's technology, there are just so many options. There are new papers, there are new apps. So you want to add anything to that?
Well, Mel brought up an interesting thing about cropping. There are some people who feel you never crop. Whatever the picture you took, I don't believe in that. I think it's a rare image that doesn't benefit to some degree from cropping.
I agree completely.
That's a personal preference. I've taken some classes where people are very dogmatic about not only shouldn't you crop, they should always be horizontal, they should always be exactly the same size.
Yeah, no, I agree. Remember, in art and photography, there are two rules. First rule is there are no rules. Second rule is, if you happen to find one and you want to break it, break it. You're the artist, And what other, Imogene Cunningham said, if people don't like my photos, that's too bad. I do. So do what you have to do to make what you want. All right, Lou.
This was taken in Iceland about 6 months ago. Just a beautiful church.
Ah, it is beautiful too.
Also in Iceland, that's a small airport nearby. The clouds happen to be cooperative.
That's the last scene in the John Ford movie, isn't it?
And the plane happened to be, in the right place. Right.
Going off into heaven.
And I think that's the last one, right?
It is the last one. All right, thank you. Thank you, Lou. This is Mark Reeves, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever you're editing, and I edited all these, you really want to start off with something that's going to grab the audience. And this picture, this kills me. I love this photograph. I love the sympathy in that guy's face. It's a simple photograph. And let's face it, we've all seen them as we walk down the subways or anywhere in the streets of New York, you'll see pictures like this. Go ahead, Brew.
Hi, my name is Mark Reeves. I photograph New York a lot, and especially the subways. I like the subways because...
Let me interrupt with one thing, and I'm sorry. Mark's an unusual photographer in this sense. When we go to the Easter parade or the zombie parade or the mermaids parade, he's got two cameras. One's digital, the other is film. He uses a Rolly, a twin lens, 2.25 film camera, and the other is Leica, which is a digital camera. So go ahead, sorry.
So I like going to the city a lot. There's photographs around every corner, and that's about it. I like the square format a lot, and I also like the Leica a lot. So, before I start anything, I want to thank my friend here, Mel DiGiacomo, because I met Mel 30 years ago. I was working for Federal Express. I used to call it Federal Distress, but it was like my last week of Federal Express. I got a call on my computer thing, go to this park and gallery in Harrington Park. So anyway, I walked into the gallery and I seen all these great black and white prints on the wall. I'm like, oh my God. So
that's what you want to do when you grow up, right?
Yeah. So I asked Mel at the time. I said, "Can I come back here and speak to you about photography?" And he was like, "Sure, come on back." So That was almost like 30 years ago, and
He's been coming back every week. You know, no matter how much I insult him, he still keeps coming back.
Just goes to show sometimes, as much as you hate something, you might end up.
All right, enough about you and me.
Okay, all right.
How'd you get this wonderful photo? I love this photograph. You just walk up to this girl with a mask
I normally, as a rule, I don't ask people if I can take the picture, because most of the time they'll say no anyway, so I just do it. So this was during the Comic-Con. It was pouring rain out. That's another thing, too. I've gotten a lot of good pictures during rainstorms and stuff. I don't care if it's raining. That's okay with me, but because I like the umbrellas in a lot of shots, too, kind of. But anyway, so.
Also, the rain provides you with a nice soft light.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about extreme contrast when it's sunny. This is a really unusual picture.
So this is another. Oh, I'm sorry. This is another shot in the subway. I just like the subway a lot. There's a lot of characters there, and so this was outside the Time Warner building. This I just recently was out in Yosemite Park with a couple of friends of mine, and actually this is not from Yosemite. This is from a deserted mining town called Bodie, and I don't know, I just like the picture. This one I took up in Cape Cod.
Where's that?
That's Yosemite, right there.
Straight shot, no filters.
I had an orange filter on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And that gives him that sky. It gives him the depth in the sky. There's a yellow, orange, and red filters, and it's up to you as the artist to choose what you want.
That's also Yosemite.
What I find interesting about this, I like the way Mark frames within the frame. You know, you've got this waterfall, and he's framed it with two trees. I mean, it's one thing, you just point the camera at the waterfall, and you got a picture of a waterfall. This is far more interesting.
This shot, I was with Mel and maybe Timmy up in Sparta at the cowboy thing.
He's done the same thing here. He's framed the cowboy with that rope and the horse. It's very interesting. You know, you can get the cowboy sitting down there. What the heck is that? It's a cowboy sitting down. This is much more interesting. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Irwin did that as well. Well,
So
that shows the influences that, you know, our antecedents have on us. I love this, saying the prayer and the guys in the coffin exposed.
I took that at Coney Island during one of our mermaid jaunts, I guess. This I took at the fashion show last year, right down the block, right over here actually, right around the corner.
Homeless, need a miracle. God bless. That's my favorite.
This.
Can you read it?
I don't know how to.
That's great.
This guy was just sitting on this milk crate.
Perfect. I love this. Even though, you know, there's a slight blur, I'm sure you had to shoot that quickly. You know.
This was inside St. Patrick's Cathedral.
I am being murdered and tortured. Are you? Who knows? Please help. Wow, this one really knocks me out. The fact that you're shooting somebody with one leg, and it says path. That's a great picture.
I took this up in Quebec a long time ago.
You were being followed by E.T.?
Yeah, it was.
But it shows that he's paying attention wherever he is. He's paying attention to, that shadow is critical. Otherwise, you just have an ordinary photograph.
I like going to Central Park a lot, and I was just walking by and I saw this shot. I I had to get it as soon as I saw it. So.
And did you bend your knees?
Yes, I did.
You bet.
Yes.
He didn't stand up and take this picture. The picture's there, you know, and it's an interesting moment. But you as the artist have to decide, am I going to go like this or am I going to go like this? And you have to make that decision. And if he hadn't bent his knees, I wouldn't have liked this as much. This, for me, this is the way the poetic references that I see here is, you know, we've got this flag that is so distressed and torn. It's almost a precursor to what's going to happen behind it. That's my interpretation. Let's face it, every photograph taken is going to have a different impression on each one of you. You're going to describe it in your own way and your own feelings. But those are my feelings. I don't know if you feel the same way about that, but I just love that photograph for that reason.
So this was taken from Hoboken.
Hoboken or Jersey City?
Hoboken.
Oh, okay.
I was walking around Hoboken. I used to go to Hoboken a lot. And I was just walking back by the train tracks, and I saw this thing sticking out.
What is it that made you take that picture, to stop and take that picture? Why did you do that?
I saw the way it was framed underneath the flag.
Okay.
So I just, that's just the way I photographed it.
Okay, fair enough.
That was taken probably about 1996. So this was taken at the Easter parade, just past Easter parade. I've seen these two, and I've seen them around Manhattan before. They usually go to a lot of the events, but I never saw the guy dressed up as the rabbit, whatever the heck he is. So I just stop him for a second. I actually only got one shot, and that's the shot. So.
There's another thing. How many of you go to these parades? You've got the Easter parade, the Mermaids parade, the Zombie parade in Asbury Park. You got the Puerto Rican Day parade, the Gay Pride parade. You got so many parades. If you come in here and say, God, there's nothing to shoot, don't come in here anymore, because there's plenty to shoot in this city. This city is like no other city. You're not going to find this in San Francisco or LA or Miami. This is the city for street photography. The other city is, if you happen to go to Paris, Paris is a great city for street photography.
So this shot was taken also at the Easter parade about 12 years ago, I guess, and there's this group of people that get dressed up like the 1920s people, 1930s people, and she was one of them.
One of the things I like about Mark's photographs is the innocence of these things. You know, I see all kinds of poetic references here. There are other reasons why he's taking them. He can't explain them that well, but he presents it, and let the photograph explain itself. And I think it does. It does a nice job. Who printed that? That's really good. Thank you.
This shot was taken last year at the Halloween, no, 2 years ago. And I can't believe how lucky I got that there was not another human being in that shot. I don't know how it happened like that. I just saw this girl, and I just basically took her by the arm, and I walked her in the spot. And
is that before or after you married?
Yeah, yeah. So I just got down on one knee and put the camera on my knee to steady my camera. Actually, that's what I had to do. Kind of push down on my knee with the camera, so as to shutter roll.
How slow was the shutter speed?
That was shot at about 1/15 of a second at f8.
Okay, so there's the point. You know, he had to steady that. I mean, you might be able to hand hold it, but you know, you're better off bracing it on something, and he used his knee in that particular case. And you know the old saying, if you're good, you're lucky.
So this is another one of those shots that I took in the rain, and this was also at the Mermaid Parade, I don't know, at least 12 years ago. And I just saw these two. There was hardly anybody around, but I just saw these two, and I just said, "Don't move a muscle. Just look at me like you're doing right now." And I just got the shot, and
well, that explains the power of the camera. The minute they see the camera, they go, you know, everybody is a narcissist in some way or another.
That I took with it's called the Mamiya 330 camera. It's a medium format camera.
Oh, you took that with a 2 1/4?
Yeah.
So you cropped it vertically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a square.
Right.
Nice. Okay. Well, the other thing that Mark is exhibiting here is that it doesn't matter what kind of day it is. You know, if you get up and you look out, I've said this before, so I mean, half of the people in here have heard this same story. I had a student once say, "How do I know I want to be a photographer?" And the answer is easy. He said, when you get up in the morning and you go to the window and you look out and your roommate says, "What kind of day is it?" You got one answer and only one answer. It's F8 at 250. That's how you know you want to be a photographer. And this guy, it's raining. It doesn't bother him. He goes out, you know. Somebody else might say, "I ain't going out there. It's raining." What a pain in the neck that is. I'm going to get wet. My camera's going to get wet. Well, he still does it, and you got to give him credit for it. This is wonderful.
This shot, I took it on Broadway, south of Canal Street. I was just walking by this window, and I just saw that eye, and I just said, "Oh God!" So I took about actually probably 20 pictures of that. So
You also saw the red too. That red is really powerful and striking. But another thing that a lot of people don't do, especially amateurs. Pros do this all the time, but amateurs they don't look at windows. You know, you walk down Fifth Avenue. If you walk down Fifth Avenue at Christmas time and walk past Fifth Avenue, Saks Fifth Avenue, and don't stop to take a picture, give your camera away, become a plumber or an electrician or something else where you can earn a decent living, because that window just screams, "Hey, where the hell are you going? Come over here." And you got to take the picture. And that's what Mark's done here. He stopped, he saw this thing, and I don't know if he took the picture as much as the picture took him. So if you leave yourself open and vulnerable to these beautiful things.
So this picture, I was just driving down River Drive and around Edgewater, and I only had my little camera, my little Ricoh camera, the GR. That's a great little camera, but I just stopped and I ran down here before the light disappeared, and I just took the shot.
It's another reason why you can't carry your camera with you all the time. You don't know what you're going to see. The minute you walk outside there, you know, there may be a guy out there with payas on fire. You know, you want that picture.
So I was just walking by a construction site, and I saw these guys hung up this T-shirt, so I just took the shot.
It's a great print. Great print.
Mel made that
Thank
print.
you, thank you. Thank you. All I did was I stopped it down a stop. It's really it's all about light and color. Same thing here. There's a lot going on here.
So this is close to the Plaza Hotel, just right around Central Park. So,
but it really sums up New York, though, doesn't it? You know, you got the guy selling postcards, the guy with the horse, the guy with the bicycle, woman with a child, hot dogs, hamburgers, falafels, whatever. That's New York City. And this is the end picture, which I've always loved.
This picture I took in Erice, Sicily. I saw these doves, birds, whatever they are, kept on circling, and I just got my camera ready. I probably zone focused it and just stomped my foot down on the ground, and they just just got up where they were before, and I just took the shot. So
nice going, nice picture. Thank you. All right, let's hear it from Mark. Yeah, you're welcome, Mark. Thank you. This is Nick Bandreth. I met him when he was a young boy. He was still a young boy. He's in Rochester now. Like I said, where photography was born. And he's making his own emulsions, and he's using big format cameras. This is what he did to earn a living when he was younger. He did a lot of this stuff on bicycles and skateboards. And he had some other photos, I haven't seen them in here, but they're very daring, you know, and he's got a lot of guts getting close. I love this. Now that's an entirely different photographer. Nick wears a lot of different hats. This is what he's doing up in Rochester. This goes back to his early years. And you know, he's a tough kid. He's not afraid to go up to some stranger in New York City and ask to take a picture. He was an all-state wrestler, so that helps. He's not afraid of anybody. I love the texture in the man's skin. That is such a beautiful photograph. In great light. I love this. He walks up to perfect strangers. Can I take your picture? You know, I love that. That's New York City, isn't it? Photographs like this kill me. Because this is this man's life. Living in this little box. 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Summer, winter, rain, snow. And that's it. That's his life. And Nick spells it out. He earns a meager living, you know, selling candies and lottery cards. This is one of my favorites. This is Nick's father. He's a hunter, and those are his dogs. They raise their own dogs. It's a powerful image. Look how beautiful that, how noble and majestic that animal is. This, and I'm sure Nick studied photography enough. This harkens back to the early years of photography. Rodchenko did this kind of thing. I mean, it had these unusual angles. I mean, before Lou Rothman came on, Rodchenko was shooting all kinds of crazy angles. The shadow of the woman, I think that's a woman, to the right, that's a wonderful figure. Portrait. Whoa, that one spooks me. I've always liked that picture. And it's rare when Nick shoots in color. Great image, Nick, thank you. Beautiful job. That's me and my rotten kid. Phil took that. He was in an automobile accident. He's confined to a wheelchair now. This is before he was confined to a wheelchair. He's done a Tri-X, 1600 ASA, and for me, a great portrait of a man and his son. This is Phil again, and he loves shooting with the Holga. You know, he's in a wheelchair. He can't get around that much, and he shoots with a very simple point-and-shoot camera. You don't have to worry about exposures or anything. Just press the button and or press the shutter. This is at Coney Island, the old roller coaster, and decrepit. This is at the Mermaids Parade. And a lot of these were taken with a cell phone. So, you know, let me see that for a second. If you got one of these in your pocket, don't ignore it. If you don't have your camera with you, there's a camera in here. And it doesn't matter what camera you use, just get the picture. And these things are capable of taking extraordinary moments. This was done with a crazy app called Roll World on the phone. You know, for a guy in a wheelchair, I think he does a pretty good job of getting things done. You know, he's got great vision. You want to talk about depth of field? Oh, good heavens, those two again. My son steals the picture, which really annoys me. Nobody's looking at me. Everybody's looking at that kid. These are the kind of things that I love, especially in New York City. He took this from the car. You know, and there's so many photographs that I've taken in New York City from the car. I'm driving back home, and, you know, you never put the camera away when you're in New York City. And it's even better when you're not driving, you know, because you can, you know, you're not supposed to text and drive at the same time. Exactly. This is with the Holga again. This is from Jersey City, and it's Liberty State Park. I just love the simplicity of that. You know, and you equate this to music in a sense because there are all those little rhythm notes up there. Again, a simple picture at the Mermaids Parade. But it's an interesting picture. This is Franz Kline, you know, with a camera. I think Kline would like that. Again, he's shooting from the car. He's shooting right through the window. I mean, he's perceptive enough to realize that he doesn't have to roll down the window. He can add another textural element in the photograph. Here's where he's really good. He takes this with his cell phone, and he does all the dodging and burning in the cell phone. You know, and he directs that light like chiaroscuro, the way Caravaggio would do that, and just directs it right where he wants it. Now, you know this is a long exposure. Not a real long exposure, but something more than normal, because the moon, a lot of people don't realize they want to take a picture of the moon, they take a picture of it, and they can't figure out why it's blurry. The moon moves. The moon moves, folks. It goes around the Earth, follows us. Anyway, that was probably done at 1/8 of a second, and that hence you get that blur instead of a crisp moon. This, I think, is better in the print. Print's much better than this. Where the heck is, oh, it's over there. Yeah, you'll see that when we close up shop here. Can you do that with a cell phone? It's a simple picture. You know, don't pass these little things, because this bike has a presence there, and the photographer has given it its presence. So, you know, you can walk around and say, oh, I didn't see anything all day. My God, look at that. You don't have to worry about seeing something all day. Look at this. Marcel Proust, a French writer, said, we don't need new venues, we need new eyes. So look, learn to see. This, the print is wonderfulness. This is the antithesis of Ansel Adams' zone system. This picture is all gray. There's no absolute white and there's no absolute black. It's just dark gray, light gray. The whole picture is gray. I love this photograph. This is Phil. Oh, good heavens. Where are those other two? There's Mark back there. Mark has lost more hair since then, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that. I've lost more weight, too, since then, too. But that's Phil in the wheelchair, and it's Mark, Timmy, myself, and we're at the zombie parade in Asbury Park. There's Phil again. I love that color. That's lovely. That's his daughter. A beautiful child, isn't she? That's his mother-in-law. Oh, sorry. Couldn't resist that. That's awful, isn't it? He's gonna hate me. That's the end of it. Let's hear it for Phil. Ho, Philly boy. Who do we got? Oh, Tim. And last but certainly not least is Tim Connolly. Tim works for an automobile distributor, I believe, but he's also the fire chief in Fairfield, New Jersey, and which gives him a lot of access to, you know, so many different photographs, things. But I love this, you know, this majestic, grand picture of this old fireman. This is part of a wet down, and what we have in New Jersey and in New York, when a firehouse gets a new apparatus, this apparatus has to be baptized. So other units from different communities come by with their super pumpers or whatever they're called, and they start wetting down this new apparatus, in a sense ritualizing it with a baptism. And the local guys will take out their hoses and there'll be a water fight between the two of them. And Timmy and I think we're the only two that are just crazy enough to get close like this. Because you get hit with one of those hoses, you know, you could wind up in Jersey City. So, not that there's anything wrong with Jersey City, in case anybody from Jersey City is watching. But this is great. And again, you see where Timmy is? He's not standing up. That is just hauntingly beautiful. That's Timmy's wife and son, and that's the mother-in-law in the background, isn't it? I used that joke twice. I don't know if I can do that again. I love this photograph, you know, because it's such a wonderfully candid moment. Again, this is so full of geometry. You know, there are so many angles and rectangles and that, and yet the human element is so strong. Unfortunately, the print here, and I'll mention this by Costco, who doesn't do a good job on these things. At times they do, but unless you're specific and tell them what you want, they'll make them the way they want, and it doesn't work out. These prints should have a border on them. It works out nicely in here because this presents a border. But it's a tremendously strong photo. This is the picture that he took that was better than mine. My cousin had a baptism of his child in a Eastern Orthodox church where they take the child and they immerse him in this big pot of water, you know. It's different in the Catholic Church. They have a basin there, somebody's holding the child, the priest pours some water over him, and then all of a sudden he's baptized. But you can't get any closer than that. And it's what I've been preaching all the time. Get close. When you think you're close enough, take another step in. But get close, and don't be afraid of using the wide-angle lens. But don't tilt it down, because then it's going to start distorting. Hold it level, and you can always get a nice photograph. And Timmy's not afraid to get close. Mark's the same way. You know, they all get close. Because if they don't, I'm behind them with a whip. Tim, you see what I mean by the background? That is just so surreal and so wonderful. That's it. Let's hear it for Tim.